I finalized my divorce and moved abroad to start fresh. My ex-wife married her lover 3 weeks later. Then my cousin attended their wedding reception and said one thing that made her face go white. What did she hear? My name is Nathan Cross, and the day I signed my divorce papers was the day I realized my ex-wife had already planned her entire future without me. The courthouse hallway smelled like floor polish and stale coffee. I sat on a wooden bench outside the mediator's office, watching lawyers shuffle past with their briefcases and tired expressions. My lawyer, a woman named Andrea with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, sat beside me reviewing the final settlement one last time. "Everything looks clean," she said. "Asset split is equitable. No alimony on either side. You'll both walk away free and clear." Free and clear. That's what she called it. Like the last 6 years of my life could be divided down the middle and filed away in a manila folder. The door opened and Claire walked out with her lawyer. She looked composed, hair pulled back in a neat bun, wearing a charcoal blazer that made her look like she was heading to a business meeting instead of ending a marriage. She didn't look at me. Hadn't looked at me properly in months, really. Not since she'd filed. Her lawyer nodded to Andrea. "We're ready when you are." We filed into the small conference room. The mediator, a man in his 60s with wire-rimmed glasses, gestured for us to sit. Claire took the chair farthest from me. I sat across the table and watched her pull out her phone, glance at it, and set it face down. The mediator walked us through the final documents. Division of assets, separation of accounts, the standard legal language that turned a shared life into a series of bullet points. I signed where he indicated. Claire signed without hesitation, her pen moving quickly across each page like she couldn't get through it fast enough. "Congratulations," the mediator said when we finished. "Your divorce is finalized as of today. The court will process the paperwork within 10 business days, but for all practical purposes, you're legally separated." Claire stood immediately, gathered her papers. Her lawyer said something about follow-up emails, but I wasn't listening. I was watching Claire's face. She looked relieved, almost happy. "Claire," I said. She paused at the door but didn't turn around. "That's it? 6 years and you don't even want to say anything?" She turned then. Her expression was neutral, carefully blank. "What do you want me to say, Nathan? We both knew this was coming." "Did we?" "Yes, we did. This hasn't been working for a long time. You know that. I know you filed without warning. I know you moved into a hotel the next day. I know you've been avoiding every conversation we've tried to have since." Her jaw tightened. "I'm not doing this here." "Then where? When?" "It's done, Nathan. We're done. Let's just move forward." She left. Her lawyer followed. Andrea touched my shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." I wasn't fine, but I didn't know how to explain the hollow feeling in my chest, the sense that I'd just watched something end that I hadn't realized was already over. I walked to the parking lot, sat in my car for 10 minutes staring at the courthouse steps. Then I drove home to the apartment Claire and I had shared until 3 months ago, the one she'd left without taking most of her things, saying she'd come back for them later. I poured a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table, pulled out my phone, opened my email. The mediator had already sent the finalized documents. I scrolled through them mechanically, not really reading, just letting the reality settle in. And then I saw it. An email from 2 weeks ago. Subject line, "Venue deposit confirmation." I hadn't noticed it before. It was buried under a dozen other messages sent to our shared email account that we'd mostly stopped using after the separation. I opened it. It was from a wedding venue, a historic estate an hour outside the city. The email confirmed a deposit payment for a wedding reception on a specific date, 6 weeks from now. The reservation name was listed as Claire Hartley and Derek Holloway. I read it 3 times. Claire had booked a wedding venue, not just booked it, paid a deposit, 2 weeks ago, which meant she'd planned this weeks before the divorce was even finalized. I checked the date again, 6 weeks out. I counted backward. The divorce filing had been 60 days ago, exactly 60 days, the minimum legal waiting period in our state. She'd filed for divorce the moment she could, timed it perfectly so she could be legally free in time for her wedding. I sat there staring at the screen. Derek Holloway. I knew that name, Claire's colleague, the HR director at some Fortune 500 company she'd worked with when her therapy practice needed compliance consulting. She'd mentioned him a few times over the past 2 years. Always in passing, always casual, just a work contact, nothing more. I opened a new browser tab, searched Derek Holloway, found his LinkedIn profile, corporate headshot, polished smile, VP of Human Resources at a company called Meridian Solutions. His profile listed Claire's therapy practice as a client he'd worked with on HR policy development. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. 2 years. She'd known him for 2 years. And now she was marrying him 6 weeks after our divorce finalized. I opened our shared cloud album. We'd used it for years to back up photos, family events, vacations, random snapshots. I hadn't looked at it in months. Most of the recent uploads were from before the separation. I scrolled back. Months and months of ordinary life. Then I stopped. There was a photo from last Valentine's Day, 14 months ago. Claire at a restaurant, smiling at the camera. The photo was tagged with a location, a French bistro downtown. I remembered that night. She'd said she was having dinner with a girlfriend who was going through a rough breakup. Said she'd be home late. I zoomed in on the photo. Behind Claire, partially out of frame, was a man's hand holding a wine glass. The sleeve of his jacket was visible, dark gray, expensive looking. I swiped to the next photo in the album. It was from Thanksgiving 2 years ago, my family's house, the long table crowded with relatives. And there, seated between my cousin and my aunt, was Derek Holloway. I stared at the screen. Derek had been at my family's Thanksgiving. I remembered now. Vaguely. Claire had mentioned bringing a colleague who was new to the area and didn't have family nearby. She'd said it would be a nice gesture. I'd agreed without thinking much about it. He'd been polite, quiet. I'd barely spoken to him. But he'd been there, at my family's table, 2 years ago. I kept scrolling. Found another photo from my father's birthday party, 18 months ago. A backyard barbecue, my dad smiling beside the grill, and in the background, standing near the fence, Derek and Claire talking. Just the two of them, close together. My phone buzzed. Text from my sister-in-law, Julie. Hey, heard about the finalization today. I'm sorry. Let me know if you need anything. I typed back, thanks. I'm okay. Quick question. Do you remember Claire bringing a colleague to Thanksgiving 2 years ago? Guy named Derek? 3 dots appeared. Then, yeah, tall guy, right? Kinda quiet. Why? Just curious. Did Claire talk about him much that night? Not really, but I remember she introduced him as someone important to her work. She seemed pretty focused on making sure he felt welcome. I set the phone down, opened my laptop, logged into our joint bank account. Claire had stopped using it after the separation, but the transaction history was still there. I scrolled back. Months of ordinary expenses, groceries, utilities, gas, and then I found them. Hotel bookings, 4 of them over the past year, all on weekends, all charged to our joint account. I cross-referenced the dates with my calendar. Each one corresponded with a weekend Claire had told me she was going on a girls' spa trip. She'd mentioned them casually, said she needed time to decompress. I'd never questioned it. The hotels weren't spas, they were boutique hotels downtown, the kind with room service and king beds and city views. I checked the booking confirmations. Each one listed the reservation under Claire's name, plus 1 guest. I closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the window and stared out at the street below. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. The hotel bookings, the Thanksgiving introduction, the Valentine's dinner. Derek had been part of her life for 2 years, woven into the background while I was standing right there, oblivious. And the wedding. She'd timed the divorce filing down to the day, 60-day waiting period, finalize in early April, wedding in late May. She'd had it all mapped out. I sat back down and opened my email again, scrolled through the shared account, found another message I'd missed. Subject line, wedding invitation proofs. I opened it. It was from a printing company. Attached were PDF proofs of wedding invitations, elegant script, Claire Hartley and Derek Holloway invite you to celebrate their union. The design was beautiful, classic, the kind of invitation you'd frame afterward. I kept reading. The RSVP card was included in the proof. Pre-addressed envelope. A handwritten note at the bottom in Claire's handwriting. Looking forward to sharing this day with you. I zoomed in on the handwriting. It was definitely hers. Same looping letters, same careful flourish on the capital letters. I'd seen her handwriting 1,000 times. Thank you notes, birthday cards, grocery lists, and then I remembered something. I stood up and walked to the closet, pulled out a box from the top shelf. It was full of old cards and letters. I dug through it until I found what I was looking for. A thank you note Claire had written to my mother 3 years ago after a Christmas visit. I held it up next to the laptop screen. The handwriting was identical. I don't know how long I sat there, long enough for the sun to set, long enough for the room to go dark. I didn't turn on the lights, just sat there staring at the wedding invitation proof and the thank you note, comparing the handwriting, connecting the dots. Claire had invited me to her wedding. Not directly, but the invitation had been mailed to our shared email. She'd known I'd see it eventually. Maybe she'd wanted me to see it, wanted me to know she was moving on, wanted me to feel exactly what I was feeling right now, or maybe she'd just been careless. Maybe she'd been so focused on her new life that she hadn't thought to remove me from the email list. Either way, it didn't matter. She was getting married in 6 weeks, to a man she'd known for 2 years, a man who'd sat at my family's table, a man who'd been there in the background of a dozen moments I'd thought were mine. I pulled out my phone, opened the text thread with Julie. "One more question. You still in touch with Claire?" "Not really. Why?" "Did you get a wedding invitation from her?" Long pause, then, "Yeah, last week. I wasn't going to mention it. Didn't want to make things weird." "It's fine. Are you going?" "I don't know. Feels awkward. But Claire and I were close before all this. I don't want to take sides." I stared at the screen. Typed, "If you go, would you do me a favor?" "Depends on the favor." "Just keep your eyes open. Let me know what you see." "Nathan, what are you planning?" I didn't answer. Just locked my phone and sat there in the dark, thinking about wedding invitations and handwriting samples and the way Claire had looked at me in that conference room like I was already gone. She thought this was over. Thought she'd moved on clean, no consequences, no looking back. But she'd made one mistake. She'd left the evidence behind. I spent the next 3 days doing what I do best, building a timeline. My job as a crisis PR consultant had taught me one fundamental truth. Narratives collapse when you line up the facts in chronological order. People lie, stories shift, but dates and timestamps don't. You put enough of them together in the right sequence and the truth becomes undeniable. I started with the Cloud album, downloaded every photo from the past 3 years, sorted them by date, created a spreadsheet with columns for date, location, event, and people present. Then I went through each photo methodically, looking for Derek. He appeared more often than I'd realized. Not in every photo, not even in most of them, but enough. Thanksgiving 2 years ago. My father's birthday 18 months ago. A charity fundraiser Claire had dragged me to last spring. A neighborhood barbecue last summer. Always in the background, always casual, never the focus, but always there. I cross-referenced the photos with my calendar. Most of the events where Derek appeared were ones Claire had specifically suggested we attend. The charity fundraiser, her idea, the neighborhood barbecue, she'd volunteered us to help set up. Even Thanksgiving. She'd been the one to suggest inviting a lonely colleague. I added those details to the spreadsheet. Date, event, Claire's suggestion, Derek's presence. Then I moved to the bank records. Our joint account transaction history went back 3 years. I exported it as a CSV file and opened it in a spreadsheet. Started filtering for hotel charges. 4 bookings over the past year, all downtown boutique hotels, all weekends. I pulled up the confirmation emails from the shared account. Each booking listed Claire's name and noted +1 guest. I checked my own calendar for those weekends. The first one was last June. I'd been at a work conference in Chicago, 3-day event. I remembered Claire saying she was going to a spa weekend with her girlfriends. Needed to decompress. I'd told her to have fun. The hotel booking was for 2 nights at the Ashford downtown. I looked up the hotel, no spa, just rooms, a restaurant, and a rooftop bar. The second booking was in September. I'd been visiting my mother for the weekend. She'd had a minor surgical procedure and wanted someone around for a few days. Claire had said she couldn't miss work, said she'd hold down the fort at home. The booking was for the Meridian Suites. 2 nights, same +1 guest notation. October, November, same pattern. I was out of town. Claire had an excuse to stay back. Hotel booking appeared in the joint account. I added those to the timeline, date, my location, Claire's stated plans, hotel booking details. Then I got to the one that made my hands stop moving on the keyboard. February 14th, Valentine's Day, 14 months ago. I hadn't been out of town that night. We'd been home together, or at least I'd thought we were supposed to be. I checked my calendar, dinner reservation at our favorite Italian place, 7 p.m., but there was a note I'd added that afternoon. Claire canceled, friend emergency, rain check. I sat back and stared at that note. I remembered now. Claire had called me at work that afternoon, said her friend Michelle was going through a terrible breakup and needed someone to talk to. Asked if we could reschedule our Valentine's dinner. I'd been disappointed but understanding, told her, of course. We'd do something the following weekend. I pulled up the cloud photo again. Claire at the French bistro, the expensive wine glass in the background, the man's sleeve. Then I went back to the bank records, found the charge. Le Marais, high-end French restaurant, 70 miles away from where Michelle lived. I opened a new browser tab, searched for Derek Holloway's social media. His Facebook was mostly private, but his profile picture was visible. Him in a dark gray suit, same shade as the sleeve in Claire's Valentine's photo. I took a screenshot of his profile picture, opened it side by side with Claire's restaurant photo, zoomed in on the sleeve. The fabric texture matched. Same color, same cut. I added it to the timeline. Valentine's Day. Claire's excuse, the restaurant location, the photo, Derek's suit. Then I checked our shared calendar, the one we'd used to coordinate schedules and appointments. Claire had deleted most of her entries after the separation, but deleted items left stubs. Little gray bars that showed something had been there even if the details were gone. I clicked on one of the stubs from last October, a Saturday afternoon. The stub showed a start time and end time, 2 to 5 p.m., but no description. I checked the bank records for that date. No charges. I checked the cloud photos. Nothing. But I remembered that day. I'd asked Claire what her plans were. She'd said she had a committee meeting for a professional organization she'd joined, Therapy Ethics Board or something. Said it would be boring. I'd gone to the gym. I went through the calendar methodically. Found 8 deleted stubs over the past year, all during times I'd been occupied or out of town, all with 2 to 3 hour blocks. I couldn't prove what those stubs had been, but the pattern was there. Convenient gaps, vague excuses, times when Claire was unavailable and unaccounted for. I added them to the timeline. Date, time, deleted calendar stub, my location or activity. By the end of day 3, I had a spreadsheet with 47 entries, photos, bank charges, calendar gaps, each one a small piece, none of them conclusive on their own. But together, they told a story. Claire had been seeing Derek for at least 2 years, maybe longer. She'd introduced him into my life gradually, made him a familiar face, then she'd carved out time with him in the margins. Weekends I was away, evenings I was busy, holidays like Valentine's Day when she could manufacture an excuse, and the entire time, I'd believed her. Every excuse, every explanation, every casual mention of a work colleague or a girls' trip or a committee meeting. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark apartment. It was after midnight. I hadn't eaten dinner, hadn't done much of anything except build the timeline and stare at the evidence. My phone buzzed. Text from Julie. Hey, I've been thinking about your question. About the wedding. I'm not sure I'm comfortable spying on Claire. It feels wrong. I typed back, I'm not asking you to spy, just asking you to pay attention. If you see anything that doesn't match what Claire's been saying, I'd like to know. That's all. What do you think you're going to find? The truth? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Nathan, is this about closure, or is it about revenge? I stared at that question for a long time. Then I typed, it's about making sure the record is accurate. Claire's been telling a story about our marriage, about why it ended, about who I was and who she was. I just want to make sure that story is based on facts. And if the facts don't match her story, then people deserve to know. The dots appeared again. Then, okay, I'll go to the wedding. I'll keep my eyes open. But Nathan, please be careful. Whatever you're planning, make sure it's worth it. I didn't respond. Just set the phone down and went back to the laptop. I opened my email, started drafting a message to myself, attached the timeline spreadsheet, the photos, the bank records, the calendar screenshots, everything I'd compiled over the past 3 days. Then I saved it as a draft, didn't send it, just left it there, a package of evidence waiting for the right moment. The next morning, I called my real estate agent, told her I wanted to list the apartment. She asked if I was sure, said the market was unpredictable this time of year. I told her I was leaving the country, moving abroad, starting fresh. She paused. How soon do you need to move? 2 weeks. That's fast. I know, but I've already made the decision. Where are you going? Portugal, Lisbon. I've been thinking about it for a while. Now seems like the right time. It wasn't a lie. I'd been considering a move for months. My work was entirely remote. I could do crisis PR from anywhere with an internet connection, and after the divorce, there was nothing keeping me here. No house, no kids, no reason to stay in a city that reminded me of Claire every time I turned a corner. But the timing was deliberate. The wedding was 6 weeks out. If I left the country in 2 weeks, I'd be gone before Claire walked down the aisle. Completely removed from the situation. An ocean away. Which meant whatever happened at that wedding wouldn't be because of me. Wouldn't be something I could be blamed for. I'd be on another continent. Uninvolved, removed. I spent the next 10 days packing, selling furniture I didn't need, closing accounts, forwarding mail. I worked methodically, efficiently, the same way I built timelines and managed crises for clients. Julie texted me twice asking if I was really going through with it. If I was sure about leaving, I told her yes, told her it was time for a clean break. On day 12, I booked a one-way flight to Lisbon. Departure date, 10 days before Claire's wedding. On day 13, I received a forwarded email from the apartment building's front desk. They'd been holding mail for me. One of the items was a wedding invitation. Cream-colored envelope, elegant script, my name and old address handwritten on the front. I opened it. The invitation was exactly as I'd seen in the proof. Claire Hartley and Derek Holloway, late May, historic estate, reception to follow. The RSVP card was tucked inside, pre-addressed envelope included, and at the bottom, in Claire's handwriting. Looking forward to sharing this day with you. I stared at those words for a long time. She'd invited me, sent a physical invitation to the apartment we'd shared, the apartment she knew I still lived in until recently. She'd either forgotten to remove me from the guest list, or she'd deliberately included me. I couldn't decide which was worse, the carelessness or the cruelty. I pulled out my phone, took a photo of the invitation, then I took a photo of the RSVP card, zoomed in on Claire's handwriting. Clear and unmistakable. I went to the closet, found the box of old cards again, pulled out the thank you note she'd written to my mother, laid it next to the RSVP card, took another photo, side by side, same handwriting, same looping letters, same flourish. I added the photos to the evidence folder on my laptop, created a new file, invitation and handwriting comparison. Then I texted Julie. I just got a wedding invitation from Claire. Did yours have a handwritten note on the RSVP card? Yeah, she wrote the same thing on everyone's. Looking forward to sharing this day with you. Why? Just confirming it's her handwriting. Nathan, what are you doing? Nothing yet, just organizing information. You're starting to worry me. Don't worry. I'll be in Portugal by the time the wedding happens. I won't even be in the country. Then why does any of this matter? Because the truth matters, even if I'm not there to see it. She didn't respond. I printed the invitation, filed it in a folder with the rest of the evidence, then I went back to packing. 2 days before my flight, I met with a lawyer, not Andrea, my divorce attorney, a different one, someone who specialized in fraud and contract law. I showed him the timeline, the bank records, the hotel bookings, the wedding invitation with the date that proved Claire had planned everything before the divorce finalized. He reviewed it carefully, then he looked up at me. What do you want to do with this? I want to know if there's grounds to revisit the settlement. If she was planning the wedding before the divorce was final, if she was using joint funds to finance an affair, does that change anything? He leaned back in his chair. Potentially. If you can prove the hotel bookings were for her and another person, and that those bookings occurred while you were still legally married, there's an argument for fraud. But it would require reopening the case. Depositions, evidence hearings. It could take months. I'm leaving the country in 2 days. Then you'd have to do it remotely, or wait until you return. What if I don't want to reopen the case right now? What if I just want the information on record? You could file an affidavit, a sworn statement outlining the evidence you found. It wouldn't trigger a new case, but it would create a legal record. If you decide to pursue it later, the affidavit would establish that you discovered the fraud within a reasonable time frame. How long does that take? I could draft it today. You'd sign it tomorrow. We'd file it before you leave. Do it. He nodded. I'll have it ready by noon tomorrow. I left his office and walked to my car. Sat there for a minute. Then I called Julie one more time. I need you to do something for me at the wedding. Nathan, just listen. I'm not asking you to make a scene. I'm not asking you to confront anyone. I just need you to bring something with you, a sealed envelope, and if the right moment comes up, I need you to give it to someone. Who? Claire's maid of honor. Her name is Simone. You've met her before. What's in the envelope? The truth? The lawyer's office smelled like leather and old books. I sat across from him at a polished mahogany desk while he slid the affidavit across to me. 5 pages, single-spaced. Every detail I'd compiled over the past 2 weeks laid out in clinical legal language. Read it carefully, he said. Once you sign, it becomes part of the court record. You're swearing under penalty of perjury that everything in here is accurate to the best of your knowledge. I read through it slowly. The timeline. The hotel bookings charged to the joint account. The wedding venue deposit paid 2 weeks before the divorce finalized. The photographs showing Derek Holloway at family events throughout our marriage. The Valentine's Day restaurant charge cross-referenced with Claire's stated location. The deleted calendar entries corresponding with gaps in my schedule. All of it was there, documented, time-stamped, undeniable. I signed at the bottom, dated it. The lawyer notarized it and made copies. "This will be filed with the court tomorrow morning," he said. "It doesn't reopen your case. But if circumstances change, if you discover additional fraud, if the settlement terms are violated, this affidavit establishes that you acted in good faith to document irregularities as soon as you became aware of them. And if I don't do anything with it, then it sits in the record, a footnote, but it's there if you ever need it." I took my copy and left. Drove home through afternoon traffic. The apartment was mostly empty now. Furniture sold, boxes shipped, just a suitcase and a carry-on bag waiting by the door. I sat on the floor and opened my laptop one last time. Went through the evidence folder. Made sure everything was organized, clearly labeled, easy to follow. Then I created a new document, titled it Timeline of Deception, copied the most relevant entries from my spreadsheet and formatted them into a clean, readable summary. 2 pages, dates on the left, evidence on the right, no commentary, no accusations, just facts. At the top, I added a single line. "The following is a timeline of documented events related to Claire Hartley and Derek Holloway. All evidence is verifiable through bank records, photographs, and third-party confirmation." I saved it as a PDF, printed 2 copies, put one in a sealed envelope, wrote Simone Hart on the front, put the other in my carry-on bag. Then I called Julie. "It's done," I said. "I'm leaving tomorrow morning. The envelope is ready." "Nathan, I still don't understand what you expect me to do with it. Just hand it to Simone in the middle of the reception?" "No, not in the middle. Before. During the pre-ceremony photos or while they're getting ready. Tell her it's from someone who cares about the truth. Tell her to read it when she has a moment alone. That's all. And then what? Then she decides what to do with it. Maybe nothing. Maybe she throws it away. But at least she'll have seen it. She'll know." "Know what?" "That the story Claire's been telling isn't the whole truth. That the timeline doesn't match. That Derek was part of Claire's life long before she filed for divorce." Julie was quiet for a long moment. "You really think Simone doesn't already know? She's Claire's best friend. They work together. She probably knows everything." "Maybe. But there's a difference between suspecting something and seeing it documented. Dates, receipts, photos. It's harder to ignore when it's right in front of you. And if she does ignore it, then nothing changes. Claire gets married. Everyone pretends the timeline makes sense. And I'm in Portugal, completely removed from all of it. That's what bothers me, Nathan. You're setting something in motion and then leaving the country. If this blows up, if Simone confronts Claire or makes a scene, you won't be here to deal with the consequences. That's the point. I'm not the one making a scene. I'm not confronting anyone. I'm just providing information to someone who might care about the truth. What she does with it is her choice." Julie sighed. "Okay, I'll bring the envelope. I'll give it to Simone if I can find a private moment. But Nathan, after this, I'm out. I'm not playing messenger or spy or whatever this is. Understood?" "Understood. Thank you, Julie. Be safe in Portugal, and try to actually move on instead of obsessing over this." "I will." I hung up, sat there on the empty apartment floor with my laptop and the sealed envelope and the weight of everything I'd discovered pressing down on me. Part of me wondered if Julie was right, if I was just setting a bomb and walking this was about justice or just revenge dressed up in paperwork and timestamps. But then I thought about the way Claire had looked at me in the courthouse, the relief on her face when she signed those papers, the speed with which she'd walked away without a single word of acknowledgement or closure or honesty. She'd rewritten the story of our marriage, made herself the victim of an emotionally distant husband, made me the reason it fell apart, and everyone had believed her friends, her colleagues, probably even my own family. But the timeline told a different story, a story where she'd been planning her exit for months, where she'd woven Derek into my life so gradually I hadn't noticed, where she'd used my travel schedule and family obligations to carve out time with him, where she'd timed the divorce filing down to the exact day so she could be free in time for a wedding she'd already planned. That story deserved to be told, even if I wasn't there to tell it. I packed the envelope in my carry-on bag, set an alarm for 4 a.m, tried to sleep. The flight to Lisbon left at noon. I arrived at the airport 3 hours early, checked my bag, got my boarding pass, sat in the terminal watching planes take off through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Mouton, my phone buzzed. Text from my mother. "Julie told me you're leaving today. I wish you'd said goodbye in person. Please be safe, sweetheart. Call me when you land." I typed back, "I will. I'm sorry for the rushed exit. I just needed to get out of here." I understand. But Nathan, whatever you're planning with that envelope Julie mentioned, please think carefully. I know Claire hurt you, but revenge won't heal anything. It's not revenge, Mom. It's just the truth. Sometimes the truth and revenge look very similar. I didn't respond. Just put my phone on airplane mode and boarded when they called my section. The flight was long, 11 hours with a layover in Boston. I slept through most of it. Woke up somewhere over the Atlantic with my neck stiff and my mind still turning over the timeline. The dates, the photos, the deleted calendar stubs. By the time we landed in Lisbon, it was early morning local time. I took a cab to the apartment I'd rented sight unseen through an expat forum. Third floor walk-up in the Alfama district. Small but bright, with windows overlooking terracotta roofs and narrow cobblestone streets. I unpacked, set up my laptop on the small kitchen table, connected to the Wi-Fi, checked my email. There was a message from the lawyer confirming the affidavit had been filed. Another from the real estate agent saying she'd found a buyer for the apartment, and the sale would close in 30 days. A dozen work emails I'd answer later, and one from Julie. Landed safely, I hope. The wedding is in 3 weeks. I still have the envelope. I'll do what you asked. But after this, you owe me an explanation. A real one. Not the "it's about the truth" line. I want to know what you're actually trying to accomplish. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I closed my laptop and walked to the window. The Lisbon morning was golden, light spilling over the hills, church bells ringing somewhere in the distance. The city was waking up around me, full of people starting their days, living their lives, completely unaware of the man standing in a third-floor apartment obsessing over a wedding 3,000 miles away. I forced myself to step away from the window, to unpack my suitcase, to go to the grocery store and buy coffee and bread and eggs, to act like someone who'd moved here to start fresh instead of someone who'd fled. But every night, I opened my laptop, checked my email, waited for word from Julie. The days passed slowly. I explored the city, walked the hills until my legs ached, sat in cafes with my laptop and worked on client projects. Tried to build a routine that didn't revolve around checking the calendar and counting down to the wedding. 2 weeks after I arrived, Julie sent another message. I'm going to the wedding tomorrow. I have the envelope. I'm still not sure this is the right thing to do, but I said I would, so I will. I'll let you know what happens. I typed back, thank you. And Julie, if Simone asks where it came from, tell her the truth. Tell her I sent it. I'm not hiding. Okay, talk soon. The next 24 hours were the longest of my life. I tried to work, tried to read, tried to sleep, but all I could think about was the wedding, the ceremony, the reception, the moment when Julie would hand Simone the envelope. I calculated the time difference. The wedding was at 4 in the afternoon local time, which meant noon in Lisbon. I sat on my couch staring at my phone, watching the minutes tick by. At 2 p.m. Lisbon time, 8 p.m. back home, my phone buzzed. Text from Julie. I gave her the envelope. I stared at the screen, typed, and 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. She's reading it now in one of the side rooms at the venue. I told her it was from you. She looked surprised but didn't say anything, just took it and walked away. Did she seem angry? No, just serious. I'll update you if anything happens. I set the phone down, stood up, paced the apartment, stared out the window at the Lisbon evening, tried to imagine what was happening 3,000 miles away. Simone opening the envelope, unfolding the timeline, reading the dates, the hotel bookings, the photos, the calendar gaps, the wedding venue deposit paid before the divorce finalized, seeing the handwriting comparison, Claire's note on the RSVP card next to the thank you note she'd written years ago. Identical. Undeniable proof that the invitation had been sent to me deliberately. And then what? Would she confront Claire? Would she throw the timeline away and pretend she'd never seen it? Would she quietly excuse herself and leave the wedding? I didn't know. Couldn't know. I was an ocean away, completely removed from whatever was about to happen. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Julie. Simone just came back out. She looks upset. She pulled Claire aside. They're talking in the hallway. I can't hear what they're saying, but Claire's face is red. She keeps shaking her head. I sat back down, stared at the message. It was happening. The truth was coming out. Not because I'd confronted Claire, not because I'd made a scene, but because I'd given someone who cared about her the facts and let them speak for themselves. Another buzz. Claire just saw me watching. She knows I gave Simone the envelope. She's walking toward me. I have to go. Then nothing. 5 minutes, 10, 15. I forced myself to set the phone down, to breathe, to wait. At 2:45, my phone rang. Julie's name on the screen. I answered. What's happening? Nathan. Her voice was tight, controlled. Claire asked me to leave. She's furious. She said you had no right to send that timeline, that you're trying to sabotage her wedding. Did Simone believe the timeline? Yes. She told Claire she needs to explain the dates, especially the proposal, especially the venue deposit. Claire tried to say the timeline was exaggerated, that you took everything out of context. But Simone asked her directly, did Derek propose while Nathan was at his father's funeral? I closed my eyes. What did Claire say? She said yes. She admitted it, said the timing was coincidental, that she didn't plan it that way, but Simone didn't believe her. She said if the proposal happened during the funeral trip, then everything else in the timeline is probably true too. Where's Simone now? I don't know. She walked away. Claire's crying in the hallway. The ceremony is supposed to start in an hour. I don't think it's going to happen. I sat there holding the phone, listening to the sounds of chaos 3,000 miles away. The muffled voices, the tension. Julie's voice came back. Nathan, what did you think was going to happen? That they'd just read the timeline and shrug it off? No, I thought they'd see the truth, and that the truth would matter. Well, it does, and now everything's falling apart. I hope that's what you wanted. The line went dead. I set the phone on the table and stared at the Lisbon rooftops turning orange in the sunset. The truth was out. The timeline had done its work, and I was 3,000 miles away, completely untouchable. The next 12 hours passed in fragmented silence. I sat in my Lisbon apartment watching the sun set over the terracotta roofs, then rise again the next morning. My phone stayed dark. No calls, no texts, nothing from Julie. I didn't sleep, just replayed Julie's last words over and over. Everything's falling apart. I hope that's what you wanted. I hadn't wanted chaos. Not exactly. I'd wanted the truth to land where it mattered. Wanted someone close to Claire to see the evidence and ask the questions I'd never gotten to ask. But now that it had happened, now that the timeline had detonated exactly as I'd planned, I felt something I hadn't expected. Emptiness. At 7 a.m, Lisbon time, my phone finally buzzed. Text from Julie. The wedding didn't happen. Claire called it off around 6 p.m. Told everyone there was a personal emergency. Most of the guests had already arrived. They got the announcement as they were being seated. Total disaster. I'm heading home now. We need to talk when you're ready. I read the message 3 times. Then I set the phone down and walked to the window. The wedding didn't happen. I'd known the timeline might cause problems, might create friction, might force uncomfortable conversations, but I hadn't seriously considered that it would stop the wedding entirely. That felt too dramatic, too much like something from a movie, but it had happened. Claire had called it off, in front of everyone, with guests seated and the ceremony minutes away. I opened my laptop and checked my email. There was a message from my mother. Nathan, I heard what happened at Claire's wedding. Julie told me you sent some kind of document that caused a scene. I don't know what was in it, but Claire is devastated. Her mother called me this morning asking if I knew what you'd done. I told her I didn't know the details. Please call me when you can. We need to talk about this. I closed the laptop, made coffee, stood at the window drinking it while Lisbon woke up around me. My phone rang. Julie, I answered. Hey. Her voice was exhausted. I just got home. I haven't slept. That was the worst night of my life, and I wasn't even the bride. What happened after you hung up? She sighed. Simone confronted Claire in the hallway. I couldn't hear everything, but it was intense. Claire was crying. Simone kept asking about the dates, about the hotel bookings, about Derek proposing during your dad's funeral. Claire tried to explain it away at first, said the timeline made things look worse than they were, but Simone wasn't buying it. And then? Then Derek showed up. He'd been with the groomsmen getting ready. Someone told him Claire was upset. He came out and saw them arguing, asked what was going on. Simone handed him the timeline. I felt my chest tighten. What did he do? He read it. Took him maybe 2 minutes. Then he looked at Claire and said, Is this true? Did you book the venue before your divorce was finalized? And Claire just stood there. Didn't answer. That's when I knew it was over. Did Derek say anything else? Not to Claire, but he pulled Simone aside. I couldn't hear what they said, but afterwards Simone looked like she'd been hit by a truck. She went back to Claire and said, I can't be part of this. I'm sorry. Then she left. Just walked out of the venue. And the wedding? Claire tried to hold it together. She went back to the bridal suite, stayed there for maybe 20 minutes. Then she came out and told the wedding coordinator to make an announcement. Personal emergency. Ceremony postponed. She didn't even face the guests, just sent the coordinator out to do it. I sat down on the couch. Where's Derek now? I don't know. He left right after Claire made the announcement. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. Just got in his car and drove away. Some of the groomsmen were asking what happened, but no one had answers. It was chaos, Nathan. People standing around in formal wear, confused, asking questions no one would answer. Did anyone mention my name? Claire's mother did. She was asking who sent the document. Someone told her it came from you. She started saying you were vindictive, that you couldn't let Claire be happy, that you sabotaged the wedding out of spite. I closed my eyes. What do you think? Julie was quiet for a long time. I think you sent the truth, and the truth destroyed something that was built on lies. But Nathan, you have to understand. People don't care about the truth the way you do. They care about the story. And right now, the story is that you're the bitter ex-husband who ruined Claire's wedding from another country. Even though everything in that timeline is verifiable, even though the dates are accurate, it doesn't matter. You're the villain because you're the one who exposed it. That's how this works. I didn't respond, just sat there listening to the sounds of Lisbon outside my window. Car horns, distant voices, the clatter of a delivery truck. Julie's voice came back softer. Why did you really do this, Nathan? And don't tell me it was about the truth. I need to know what you were hoping would happen. I thought about that. About the nights I'd spent building the timeline, about the lawyer's office and the affidavit, about the sealed envelope and the calculated handoff. I wanted her to have to explain herself, I said finally. For 2 years, she made me feel like I was the problem, like I was emotionally unavailable, like the marriage failed because I wasn't enough. And then she filed for divorce and walked away without ever acknowledging what she'd done, who she'd been seeing, how long she'd been planning it. I wanted someone to ask her the questions I never got to ask. And now? Now I don't know. I thought I'd feel vindicated, like justice had been served or something, but I just feel empty. Julie sighed. That's because revenge doesn't actually fix anything, Nathan. It just creates more wreckage. This wasn't revenge. It was accountability. Those things aren't as different as you think. We hung up shortly after. I sat on my couch staring at my phone, waiting for something. Another message, another update, some confirmation that what I'd done mattered. But nothing came. I spent the rest of the day trying to work, responding to client emails, reviewing crisis management strategies for a tech company dealing with a PR scandal. The irony wasn't lost on me. I managed crises for a living, built narratives, controlled damage, and I just created the biggest personal crisis of my life from 3,000 miles away. That evening, my mother called. Nathan, I need you to be honest with me. What was in that document you sent to Claire's wedding? I told her. The timeline, the hotel bookings, the photos showing Derek at family events during the marriage, the wedding venue deposit paid before the divorce finalized, the Valentine's Day restaurant charge, all of it. She was quiet for a long time. Then, so it's all true? Everything you documented? Yes. And you sent it to her maid of honor knowing it might stop the wedding? I sent it so someone close to Claire would see the facts. What they did with those facts was their choice. Nathan. Her voice was gentle but firm. You knew what would happen. You built a timeline designed to be undeniable. You timed the delivery for the day of the wedding. You knew it would create a crisis. She lied, Mom. For 2 years. She brought him to our Thanksgiving, to Dad's birthday party. She used Dad's funeral as cover to get engaged, and then she filed for divorce the moment she legally could, so she'd be free in time for a wedding she'd already planned. That's not just lying, that's calculated manipulation. I know, sweetheart, and I'm not defending what she did, but you have to understand how this looks. You sent evidence to blow up her wedding from another country where no one can confront you or hold you accountable. People are going to call that cowardice. I gave them facts, dates, receipts, photos. That's not cowardice. That's documentation. And you did it from 3,000 miles away. I didn't have an answer for that. My mother sighed. I love you, Nathan, and I understand why you're angry. But please think about what comes next. This isn't over. Claire's family is furious. Derek's family is asking questions. People are taking sides, and you're not here to defend yourself or explain your reasoning. You've created a situation and then removed yourself from it. That was the point. I didn't want to be part of the drama. I just wanted the truth to be known. The truth is known, and now you have to live with the consequences. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, staring at the darkening Lisbon sky. 2 days later, I got an email from a name I didn't recognize. Subject line, Derek Holloway. I opened it. Mr. Cross, my name is Richard Holloway. I'm Derek's father. I was at the wedding when your document caused my son's ceremony to be canceled. I don't know what your intention was, but you've humiliated my family and destroyed what should have been the happiest day of Derek's life. My son is a good man. Whatever issues you had with Claire should have been handled privately, not weaponized to sabotage a wedding. I'm considering legal action for defamation and emotional distress. If anything in your timeline is inaccurate or exaggerated, you will be held accountable. I suggest you contact a lawyer. I read the email twice. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer with a note. Is this a credible threat? He responded within an hour. Unlikely. Everything in your timeline is documented and verifiable. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation, and emotional distress claims are difficult to prove, especially when you didn't make any false statements. This reads like bluster from an angry father. I wouldn't worry about it, but save the email just in case. I saved it, added it to a folder labeled Wedding Aftermath. Then I closed my laptop and tried to focus on anything else, but the emails kept coming, one from Claire's mother. You are a cruel, vindictive man. My daughter gave you 6 years of her life, and this is how you repay her? By trying to destroy her happiness? I hope you're proud of yourself. One from a mutual friend I hadn't spoken to in over a year. I don't know what happened between you and Claire, but sending that document to her wedding was low. Whatever she did, she didn't deserve that. One from Simone. That one surprised me. Mr. Cross, I'm the person Julie gave your timeline to. I want you to know that I read every word. I checked the dates, I looked at the photos, and I believe you. Everything you documented aligns with things Claire told me that never quite made sense. I confronted her because I needed to hear her explain it. She couldn't, or wouldn't. I don't know if you intended for the wedding to be canceled, but I want you to know that what happened wasn't your fault. It was the consequence of choices Claire and Derek made. They built a relationship on deception, and when that deception was exposed, it collapsed. That's on them, not you. I hope you find peace in Portugal. I read Simone's email 3 times. Then I wrote back. Thank you for reading the timeline. Thank you for asking the questions I never got to ask. I don't know if what I did was right, but I know the information I provided was accurate. That's all I can stand behind. I hope you find peace, too. A week passed. The angry emails stopped. The silence returned. I fell into a routine. Mornings at a cafe near my apartment, afternoons working from home, evenings walking the hills of Alfama. I tried to convince myself I'd moved on, that the wedding was behind me, that justice had been served and I could finally let go. But every night, I opened my laptop and checked my email, waiting for something, an apology, an acknowledgement, some sign that Claire understood what she'd done. It never came. Instead, 2 weeks after the canceled wedding, I got an email from a law firm I didn't recognize. Subject line, Settlement Fraud Investigation. I opened it. Mr. Cross, we represent Claire Hartley in a review of your recent divorce settlement. It has come to our attention that you may have concealed assets during the settlement process. Specifically, we are investigating a wire transfer of significant value that was not disclosed in your financial affidavit. We request that you provide documentation of all financial accounts and transactions from the 6 months prior to your divorce filing. Failure to comply may result in legal action to reopen the settlement and reclaim hidden assets. Please respond within 10 business days. I stared at the screen. She knew about the money. Somehow Claire had found out about the wire transfer I'd received the day before she served me divorce papers, and now she was coming for it. I read the email 5 times. Each time the words felt heavier. Settlement fraud investigation, concealed assets, wire transfer of significant value. She knew about the money. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark apartment trying to figure out how that was possible. The wire transfer had come the day before Claire served me divorce papers. $2 million from the sale of a stake in a tech startup I'd consulted for during its early days. The company had gone public, bought out early investors and advisors, and I'd received the payout into a personal account I'd opened years before meeting Claire. I'd never mentioned it during the settlement because it had arrived after she filed, technically after our separation began, and I'd moved it immediately into a private account under my name only, held at a bank Claire had no connection to. There was no way she should have known about it, unless someone told her. I opened my laptop again and reread the email. The law firm was Garrison and Phelps. I searched them. Mid-sized firm specializing in family law and asset recovery, based in the same city I'd just left. I forwarded the email to my lawyer with a single line. How did she find out? He called me 20 minutes later. Nathan, walk me through the wire transfer. When did it arrive? What account did it go into? Who else had access to that information? It arrived the morning before Claire served me papers. It went into a personal checking account I'd opened 5 years ago. No joint access. Different bank than the one we used together. Did you report it on your tax return? Not yet. It arrived in April. I haven't filed this year's return. Did anyone at the bank know about it? Financial advisor? Accountant? I thought about that. The only person who knew was my accountant. I sent him a copy of the wire confirmation so he could calculate the tax liability. When did you send it? 2 weeks ago, right after I got to Lisbon. I wanted to get ahead of the filing deadline. My lawyer was quiet for a moment. Nathan, does Claire know your accountant? My stomach dropped. She used him too, for her practice. We referred her to him 3 years ago when she was setting up her LLC. That's how she found out. Your accountant either accidentally disclosed it or she asked him directly about your finances, and he confirmed it. He can't do that. Client confidentiality. Technically correct. But if Claire called him claiming she needed information for a settlement review, and he thought it was a legitimate inquiry, he might have slipped. Or she might have socially engineered it, asked casual questions that led him to confirm details without realizing what he was revealing. I leaned back against the couch. So, what do I do? First, you need to respond to the email. Acknowledge receipt. Don't admit anything. Just say you're reviewing the inquiry with counsel. That buys us time. And then we need to determine if the wire transfer is actually a marital asset. When did you earn the right to receive it? When you consulted for the startup or when the payout was made? I consulted for them 6 years ago, before I met Claire, but the payout was contingent on the company going public, which didn't happen until this year. That's a gray area. If you earned the right to the payment before the marriage, it's arguably separate property. But if the value accrued during the marriage, Claire might have a claim to a portion of it. She filed for divorce. She walked away. She had a wedding planned before the ink was dry on the settlement. And now she wants half of money she didn't even know existed? I understand your frustration. But from a legal standpoint, if that money is classified as marital property, she has a right to pursue it. The fact that she didn't know about it during the settlement is actually a point in her favor. It suggests you concealed it. I didn't conceal it. It arrived after she filed. You didn't disclose it during the settlement process. That's the issue. I closed my eyes. How much could she claim? If the court determines it's marital property, up to half. $1 million. I sat there in silence. The Lisbon night outside my window was quiet, peaceful, the exact opposite of the chaos that was about to unfold. What's my best move here? I asked. Be proactive. File an amended financial disclosure showing the wire transfer. Argue that it's separate property based on when you earned it. Provide documentation showing you consulted for the startup before the marriage. If we can establish that the payment was for work done prior to meeting Claire, we have a strong case that it's not marital property. And if we can't establish that, then we negotiate. Offer her a settlement amount lower than half, maybe 20 or 30%. Argue that the majority of the value accrued from your work before the marriage, and only a small portion is attributable to the marital period. She's going to reject that. She knows the full amount now. She'll want half. Probably, but it's worth trying. And Nathan, there's something else you need to consider. What? If this goes to court, everything comes out. The timeline you sent to her wedding, the evidence you compiled, the hotel bookings, and the affair. Claire's lawyers will argue that you sent that timeline out of malice, that you were retaliating because you knew she was going to discover the wire transfer. That's not true. I didn't even know she knew about the money until today. It doesn't matter. They'll create that narrative. They'll say you were acting out of spite and greed, that you sabotaged her wedding to distract from your own financial misconduct. I felt the walls closing in. So what do I do? You decide what matters more, the money or the principle. If you fight this, it's going to be ugly, expensive, public. If you settle quietly, you lose some of the money, but you avoid a drawn-out legal battle. How much time do I have to decide? They gave you 10 business days to respond. I'd say you have a week to think about it. After that, we need to move. We hung up. I sat in the dark apartment staring at my laptop screen, the email from Claire's lawyers glowing in the dim light. She was coming for the money, and she was going to use the timeline I'd sent as evidence that I was vindictive and untrustworthy. I'd spent weeks documenting her lies, building an airtight case, exposing the affair, and now it was all going to be used against me. The next morning, I called my accountant. Nathan, I swear I didn't mean to tell her anything. She called a week ago saying she needed to verify some tax information for the settlement. I thought it was a routine follow-up. She asked if you'd had any significant income events this year, and I mentioned the wire transfer without thinking. I didn't realize she didn't know about it. Did she ask you how much it was? No. She just asked if it was substantial. I said yes. That's all. I closed my eyes. You just handed her $1 million claim. I'm sorry, Nathan. I thought she was asking as part of the settlement process. I didn't know it was going to turn into this. I hung up, stood at the window watching Lisbon wake up, tried to think clearly. Claire had found out about the money, she'd hired lawyers, she was claiming I'd concealed assets. And if this went to court, she'd drag out every piece of evidence I'd compiled against her and use it to paint me as a vengeful ex-husband trying to hide money. The irony was suffocating. I'd exposed her lies, documented her affair, stopped her wedding with the truth, and now the truth was going to cost me $1 million. My phone buzzed, text from Julie. I heard Claire's going after you for hidden money. Is that true? I typed back, yes. She found out about a wire transfer I received right before the divorce. Now she's claiming I concealed it. Did you? It arrived the day before she served me papers. I didn't think I had to disclose it because it came after she filed. Nathan, that's not how it works. If you received it during the marriage, it's marital property. You should have disclosed it. I didn't know that. Well, now you do, and now Claire has leverage. She's telling people you hid $2 million while making her feel guilty about the affair. She's flipping the narrative, making you the villain. I stared at that message. How do you know it's $2 million? Because she told people. She's not keeping this quiet. She's telling everyone you're a hypocrite, that you sent that timeline to distract from your own dishonesty. That's not what happened. Doesn't matter, that's the story now, and people are believing it. I set my phone down, walked to the kitchen, made coffee I didn't drink, stood at the counter trying to process the fact that everything I'd done over the past month was collapsing in on itself. The timeline had stopped the wedding, but it had also made me a target. Claire wasn't just defending herself anymore, she was going on the offensive, using the money as proof that I was just as dishonest as she was. And the worst part was that she wasn't entirely wrong. I had hidden the money, not out of malice, not to cheat her, but because I hadn't wanted her to know about it, hadn't wanted to give her the satisfaction of claiming half of something I'd earned before I even knew she existed. But legally, that didn't matter. The money had arrived during the marriage, and I hadn't disclosed it. That afternoon, I got another email, this time from Claire directly. Nathan, I know what you did. You sent that timeline to destroy my wedding because you knew I was going to find out about the money. You wanted to hurt me first, so I couldn't hurt you, but it didn't work. I know about the wire transfer. I know you hid it. And I'm going to make sure you don't get away with it. You spent weeks documenting my mistakes, but you're just as dishonest as you claim I am. Maybe more. At least I didn't pretend to be a victim while hiding $2 million. See you in court. I read the email 3 times. Each time, I felt the anger building, not at Claire, at myself, because she was right. I had hidden the money. I'd told myself it was separate property, that I'd earned it before I met her, that she had no right to it. But deep down, I'd known it was a gray area, known that a lawyer might argue it was marital property, and I'd chosen not to disclose it anyway. I'd spent weeks building a case against Claire, documenting her lies, exposing her affair, holding her accountable for every deception. But I'd been lying, too, by omission, by calculation, by deciding what truth mattered and what truth could be hidden. I opened a new email, addressed it to my lawyer. I want to settle. Offer her 30% of the wire transfer, $600,000. Tell her it's a one-time offer, and if she rejects it, I'll fight her in court and expose every detail of the affair timeline in depositions. Make sure she understands that if this goes to trial, everything becomes public record. The hotel bookings, the proposal during my father's funeral, the wedding venue deposit, all of it. He responded an hour later. Are you sure? That's a significant amount of money to give up. I'm sure. I want this over. I'll draft the settlement offer and send it to her attorneys today. I closed my laptop and walked to the window. The sun was setting over Lisbon, the city glowing gold and orange, peaceful, beautiful, everything my life wasn't. I'd come here to start fresh, to escape the wreckage of my marriage, to build something new. But the wreckage had followed me, and now I was paying for it. 2 days later, my lawyer called. She accepted the settlement, $600,000. In exchange, she agrees to drop the fraud investigation and sign a mutual non-disclosure agreement. Neither of you can discuss the settlement terms or the circumstances of the divorce publicly. It's over, Nathan. I sat down on the couch. It's really over? Yes, I'll send you the paperwork to sign. Once it's executed, you're done. No more claims, no more lawyers, you can move on. I thanked him and hung up. Sat there in the quiet Lisbon apartment. I'd lost $600,000. half of what Claire might have claimed if we'd gone to court. But I'd kept the rest. And more importantly, I'd kept the truth buried. The timeline was out there. The wedding had been stopped. Claire's lies had been exposed. But so had mine. And in the end, we'd both paid the price. I signed the settlement paperwork on a Tuesday morning, scanned it, emailed it back to my lawyer. Then I sat at my kitchen table in Lisbon, staring at the screen, waiting for confirmation that it had been filed and accepted. The confirmation came an hour later. A brief email from my lawyer. Settlement executed. Payment will be processed within 10 business days. You're officially done. Good luck in Portugal. I closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the window. The Lisbon morning was bright and clear. Tourists were already wandering the narrow streets below, taking photos of tile-covered buildings and graffiti-covered staircases. Life moving forward like nothing had happened. $600,000. Gone. Transferred to Claire as part of a settlement that would never be discussed publicly. A mutual non-disclosure agreement that meant neither of us could speak about what had happened. Not the affair, not the timeline, not the money. It was over. I tried to feel relief, tried to tell myself that I'd done the right thing, that settling was better than a drawn-out court battle, that keeping the rest of the money was a win. But all I felt was exhausted. I spent the next week trying to rebuild some kind of routine. Mornings at a cafe, afternoons working on client projects, evenings walking the hills. I answered emails, filed invoices, pretended I was someone who'd successfully moved abroad and left his old life behind. But every night, I opened my laptop and checked my email, not expecting anything, just out of habit. On the 8th day, I got a message from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, "You should know." I opened it. Mr. Cross, my name is Angela Price. I'm a friend of Simone Hart. She told me about the timeline you sent to Claire's wedding. I wanted you to know that what you documented wasn't the whole story. Derek Holloway was married when his relationship with Claire began. His divorce was finalized 1 week before he was supposed to marry Claire. I was at his first wedding. I watched him marry a woman named Lauren, and I watched him destroy that marriage the same way he destroyed yours. I thought you should know that you weren't the only one he hurt. I stared at the email, read it again. Then I opened a new browser tab and searched Derek Holloway marriage records. It took 20 minutes of digging, but I found it. A marriage license filed 4 years ago, Derek Holloway and Lauren Mitchell, and a divorce decree filed 8 months ago, finalized 3 weeks before the wedding to Claire. Derek had been married. The entire time he was seeing Claire, he'd been married to someone else. I sat back in my chair, tried to process what that meant. Claire had been having an affair with a married man. Not just a colleague. Not just someone she'd fallen for after our marriage started falling apart. A married man who'd been lying to his own wife the same way Claire had been lying to me. And that divorce had been finalized 1 week before the wedding, which meant Derek had been planning his exit the same way Claire had, timing everything perfectly so he could be legally free in time to marry her. I opened a reply to Angela's email. "Thank you for telling me. Can I ask how you know all this?" She responded within an hour. I was Lauren's maid of honor at her wedding to Derek. I watched them build a life together, and then I watched him destroy it. Lauren found text messages on his phone about 8 months ago. Love messages to someone named Claire. She confronted him. He admitted to the affair, said he'd fallen out of love with Lauren and wanted a divorce. She was devastated, filed immediately. The divorce was brutal. Derek fought her on every asset, dragged it out for months. And then the moment it was finalized, he sent out wedding invitations to marry the woman he'd been cheating with. Lauren didn't even know about the wedding until someone sent her a photo of the invitation. That's when she told me everything, and when Simone told me what you documented, I realized you and Lauren were both victims of the same people. I read the message twice, then I asked, "Is Lauren willing to talk?" "I can ask her. Why?" "Because I think there's more to this story than either of us knows. And I think Derek and Claire have been manipulating people for longer than we realized." Angela's response came an hour later. Lauren said yes. She wants to talk. I'll send you her contact information. But Mr. Cross, Nathan, please be careful. Derek is vindictive. He has money and connections. If he finds out you're digging into his past, he'll retaliate. I replied, "I'm in Portugal. He can't touch me here." That's what Lauren thought, until he started calling her employer and spreading rumors that she was unstable. She almost lost her job. Just be careful. I saved Angela's email. Then I opened the contact information she'd sent and drafted a message to Lauren Mitchell. "Ms. Mitchell, my name is Nathan Cross. I was married to Claire Hartley. I recently learned that Derek was married to you while he was having an affair with Claire. I'm sorry for what you went through. I know what it's like to be lied to by both of them. If you're willing, I'd like to hear your side of the story. I think there are things we both don't know, and I think it's time the full truth came out. I sent it. Then I closed my laptop and tried to sleep. The response came the next morning. Mr. Cross, thank you for reaching out. I've been wondering if anyone would ever connect the dots. Derek and Claire didn't just have an affair. They coordinated their divorces. I found emails on Derek's old laptop showing they planned the timeline months in advance. They decided when to file, when to finalize, when to get married. It was all calculated, and they destroyed 2 marriages in the process. I have copies of those emails. If you want to see them, I'll send them, but I need to know what you're planning to do with them. I don't want to start another war. I just want people to know the truth. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the screen. Derek and Claire had coordinated their divorces. Planned the timeline. Timed everything so they'd both be free at the same moment. I typed back, "Send me the emails. I'm not planning a war. I'm just trying to understand what happened and why." Lauren's response came with attachments. 4 PDF files. Email chains between Derek and Claire spanning 18 months. I opened the first file. The earliest email was from 2 years ago. Subject line, timeline. Derek: I talked to my lawyer. If I file in June, the divorce will be final by February. That gives us a 3-month buffer before the spring wedding season. We can book a venue for May, and no one will question the timing. Claire: My lawyer says the same. 60-day waiting period here. If I file in early March, I'll be free by May. We can send invitations in April. No one will know we planned this. Derek: What about Nathan? Is he going to fight the divorce? Claire: No, he's clueless. He thinks we're working on things. I'll file when he's out of town so he doesn't see it coming. By the time he processes what's happening, it'll be too late to contest. I felt my chest tighten. I opened the second file. The emails continued. Discussions about wedding venues, about how to minimize scrutiny, about what to tell their families. Claire: I'm worried about Nathan's family. They like me. If they find out about you, they'll turn on me. Derek: Don't tell them. Let them think the marriage just didn't work out. By the time they figure out we're together, we'll already be married. They can't do anything about it then. Claire: What about Lauren? Is she going to cause problems? Derek: No, she's too passive. She'll cry and feel sorry for herself, but she won't fight. I'll offer her a quick settlement and she'll take it. She just wants it over. I closed the file. Opened the third one. This one was more recent, from 3 months ago. Claire: Nathan's acting strange. He's been asking questions about my schedule. I think he might suspect something. Derek: Do you think he knows about me? Claire: I don't think so, but he's paying more attention than he used to. I need to be careful. Derek: Just keep everything separate. No overlap, no evidence. Once the divorce is filed, it doesn't matter what he suspects. He can't prove anything. Claire: What if he tries to delay the filing? Derek: He won't. He's too passive, just like Lauren. These people don't fight. They just accept things and move on. I sat back, stared at the screen. Derek had called me passive, said I wouldn't fight. He'd been wrong. I opened the fourth file. This one was from 2 months ago, after Claire had filed, after I'd been served. Claire: Nathan signed the settlement. It's done. We're free. Derek: Good. Now we can move forward. Invitations go out next week. Everything's on track. Claire: I'm worried he's going to find out about the timeline, about us planning this. Derek: How would he find out? We've been careful. And even if he does, what's he going to do? The divorce is finalized. The settlement is signed. He has no leverage. Claire: You're right. I'm just paranoid. Derek: Stop worrying. By the time he figures anything out, we'll be married and living our lives. He'll move on eventually. They always do. I closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the window, stared out at Lisbon without seeing it. They'd planned everything, the filing dates, the settlement timing, the wedding. They'd coordinated their lies down to the week, and they'd done it believing that Lauren and I were too passive to fight back. Derek had been wrong about me. I'd fought, I'd documented, I'd sent the timeline, I'd stopped the wedding. But Claire had still walked away with $600,000, and Derek had walked away free. I pulled out my phone, opened a new email to Lauren. Thank you for sending those emails. I need to ask you something. Are you willing to let me share them? Not publicly, but with specific people who need to see them. Her response came 20 minutes later. Who are you thinking? Derek's employer. He works in HR. These emails show he coordinated an affair and manipulated divorce timelines. That's an ethics violation. If his employer sees them, He could lose his job. Lauren's response took longer this time. If I say yes, Derek will know I gave you the emails. He'll retaliate. He'll call my employer again. He'll try to make my life hell. What if he doesn't know it came from you? What if the emails are sent anonymously? He'll still suspect me. Probably. But Lauren, he's going to keep doing this. To other people, in other relationships. If we don't stop him, he'll just move on to the next victim and the next. Another long pause. Okay, you can share them. But please, be smart about it. Don't just forward them directly. Make sure there's no trail back to me. I will, thank you. I closed the email, opened the PDF files again, read through every message, made notes, highlighted the key passages. Derek and Claire had coordinated their divorces, timed their filings, planned their wedding, and they'd done it all while lying to their spouses and families. That wasn't just dishonesty, it was calculated manipulation. And if Derek worked in HR, if he was responsible for enforcing ethics policies at his company, then he was a hypocrite of the highest order. I opened a new browser tab, searched for Derek's employer, Meridian Solutions, Fortune 500 company, headquarters in the city I'd left. I found their ethics hotline page, anonymous reporting system, confidential, designed for employees or stakeholders to report misconduct without fear of retaliation. I clicked the link, filled out the form, described the situation in neutral language, attached the email PDFs, redacted Lauren's name and any identifying details that could trace back to her. At the bottom of the form, I wrote, "The attached emails show that Derek Holloway, VP of Human Resources, coordinated an extramarital affair and manipulated divorce proceedings while employed at Meridian Solutions. This conduct violates the company's ethics code and calls into question his ability to enforce policies he himself has violated. I believe this matter warrants investigation." I reviewed the form twice, made sure there was nothing that could identify me or Lauren. Then I submitted it. The confirmation page appeared, report received, case number assigned. Investigation will be opened within 5 business days. I closed the browser, sat back in my chair. Derek had called me passive, said I'd move on, accept things, let it go. He'd been wrong. I wasn't starting a war. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was just making sure the record was accurate. And this time, Derek was going to be the one facing consequences. 3 days after I submitted the ethics complaint, I received an automated email confirming that Meridian Solutions had opened a formal investigation into employee conduct. No names, no details, just a case number and a note that findings would be communicated to relevant parties upon completion. I saved the email, added it to a folder I'd labeled Derek Holloway. Then I tried to focus on work, client projects, strategy sessions, the normal rhythm of crisis management consulting. But I kept checking my phone, refreshing my email, waiting for something to happen. On the 4th day, Lauren sent me a message. "Derek called me last night. He was furious. Said someone at his company is investigating him for ethics violations. He thinks I reported him. I told him I didn't. He didn't believe me. He said if I'm behind this, I'll regret it. Nathan, I'm scared." He sounded unhinged. I replied immediately. "I made sure there was nothing in the complaint that could trace back to you. No names, no identifying details. If his company is investigating, it's because the evidence speaks for itself, not because of you. He knows the only person who has those emails is me. Who else would report him? Anyone who saw the timeline I sent to the wedding, anyone Claire told, anyone in his office who suspected something. There are a lot of possible sources. Don't let him intimidate you." She didn't respond for an hour. Then, "Okay, but if this gets worse, I'm deleting everything and cutting contact. I can't go through another battle with him." "Understood. Stay safe." I set my phone down and stared out the window. Derek was panicking. That was good. It meant the investigation was real, that his employer was taking it seriously, but it also meant he was going to start looking for who turned him in, and if he pressured Lauren hard enough, she might break, might tell him I'd contacted her, might give him my name. I needed to be ready for that. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number, international. I let it go to voicemail. The message was from Derek. "Nathan, I know you're behind this. I don't know how you got those emails, but I know it was you. You sent that timeline to my wedding, you sabotaged the happiest day of my life, and now you're trying to destroy my career. But you made a mistake. You filed a false report with my employer. That's defamation, that's tortious interference, and I'm going to sue you for everything you have. I've already talked to my lawyers, they're drafting a complaint. You're going to regret ever coming after me." The voicemail ended. I played it again. Derek's voice was tight, controlled. But there was an edge to it. Anger barely held in check. I saved the voicemail, forwarded it to my lawyer with a note. Derek Holloway just threatened to sue me for filing an ethics complaint with his employer. Is this credible? My lawyer called me back within the hour. Nathan, did you file an ethics complaint? Yes, anonymously, through his company's hotline. I attached emails showing he coordinated an affair and manipulated divorce timelines while working in HR. All of it is documented and accurate. Where did you get the emails? From his ex-wife. She gave me permission to use them. And you redacted her name? Yes. There's nothing in the complaint that identifies her or me. Then his threat is baseless. You filed a good faith complaint with documented evidence. That's protected activity. He can't sue you for defamation because truth is an absolute defense. And he can't sue you for tortious interference because reporting ethics violations to an employer isn't interference. It's accountability. So I'm safe? Legally, yes. But Nathan, you need to understand something. This man is escalating. He just left you a threatening voicemail. He's losing control. That makes him dangerous. Not legally, but personally. If he's willing to call you from another country and threaten a lawsuit, he's willing to do other things. Like what? Like contacting your clients, spreading rumors, trying to damage your reputation. He's an HR executive. He knows how to make people look bad. And he's motivated. You just put his career at risk. I closed my eyes. What should I do? Document everything. Save that voicemail. If he contacts you again, don't engage. Just save the messages and forward them to me. And Nathan, consider going dark for a while. Deactivate social media. Make yourself hard to find. Let the investigation run its course without giving him any more targets. We hung up. I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone. Derek's voicemail was still there, his voice still echoing in my head. You're going to regret ever coming after me. I opened my laptop, deactivated my LinkedIn profile, set my Facebook to private, changed my Instagram to a locked account, made myself as invisible as I could online. Then I waited. 2 days later, I got an email from a former client, someone I'd done crisis PR work for a year ago. The subject line read, Concerned Inquiry. Nathan, I received a call today from someone claiming to be conducting a reference check on you. He said you were applying for a position and he wanted to verify your work history. He asked about your professionalism, your reliability, whether I'd hire you again. It felt off. The questions were too personal, too probing. I told him you were excellent and ended the call, but I wanted you to know, I think someone is trying to dig up dirt on you. Be careful. I read the email twice. Then I replied, Thank you for letting me know. Can you tell me who called? What name did they give? The response came an hour later. He said his name was Rick Carver. Didn't leave a company name or callback number, just said he was conducting due diligence. Rick Carver. I searched the name, found nothing connected to Derek. But I didn't need to. I knew it was him, or someone he'd hired. Derek was going after my clients, trying to damage my professional reputation, trying to make me pay for the ethics complaint. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. Derek is now contacting my clients under a fake name, asking questions designed to undermine my credibility. What can I do about this? His response was immediate. That's harassment. Possibly defamation if he's making false statements. Save every message from clients reporting this. If it continues, we can file for a restraining order. But Nathan, this is exactly what I warned you about. He's retaliating, and he's going to keep escalating until something stops him. What stops him? Either the investigation ends and he gets fired, or you disappear completely and he loses interest. I'm not disappearing. I didn't do anything wrong. I know, but you need to be realistic. This man has resources. He has connections. He's willing to play dirty. And you're sitting in a foreign country with no way to defend yourself if he decides to get more aggressive. I hung up, stood at the window staring out at Lisbon. The sun was setting. Golden light spilling over the tile roofs. The city peaceful and indifferent to the war being waged 3,000 miles away. That night, I got another email, this time from Julie. Nathan, Claire called me today. She's furious. She said you're harassing Derek, that you filed a false report with his company trying to get him fired. She said Derek's lawyers are going after you. She wanted me to tell you to stop, to leave them alone. Nathan, what's going on? I thought the settlement was done. I thought this was over. I typed back, The settlement is done, but I found out Derek was married when he started the affair with Claire. His ex-wife gave me emails showing they coordinated their divorces, planned the whole thing. I reported it to Derek's company because he works in HR and the emails show he violated their ethics code. That's not harassment. That's accountability. Julie's response came quickly. Nathan, you're playing with fire. Derek has money, lawyers, connections. Claire is telling everyone you're stalking them, that you can't let go, that you're trying to destroy their lives from another country. I'm not stalking anyone. I'm making sure people know the truth. The truth doesn't matter if you end up in court defending yourself against harassment charges. Please just stop. Walk away. You won. You got your settlement. You exposed the affair. Let it be over. It's not over until Derek stops retaliating. Then you're going to be fighting this forever, because he's not going to stop, and neither are you. I didn't respond. Just closed the email and sat in the dark. She was right. This wasn't over, and it wouldn't be over as long as Derek kept coming after me, as long as he kept calling my clients, threatening lawsuits, trying to destroy what I'd built. But I wasn't going to back down. Not this time. The next morning, I got a message from Angela, Lauren's friend. Nathan, Lauren asked me to tell you she's done. Derek showed up at her apartment last night, pounded on her door, demanded to know if she gave you the emails. She didn't answer, just called the police. They escorted him away and told him not to come back. But she's terrified. She can't do this anymore. She's deleting everything and cutting all contact. She wanted me to tell you she's sorry, but she can't be part of this. I read the message 3 times. Felt something cold settle in my chest. Derek had shown up at Lauren's apartment, pounded on her door, terrified her to the point where she called the police. I typed back, "Tell Lauren I understand. Tell her I'm sorry she got pulled into this. And tell her to document everything, the police report, any messages Derek sends, everything. She might need it later." Angela responded, "She already did? But Nathan, she's right to walk away. Derek is unhinged, and you're next. Be careful." I set my phone down, walked to the kitchen, made coffee I didn't drink. Derek had escalated, shown up at his ex-wife's home, tried to intimidate her into giving him my name, and when that didn't work, he'd started going after my clients. This was only going to get worse. That afternoon, I got a call from my lawyer. "Nathan, I just received a letter from Derek Holloway's attorneys. They're threatening to file a lawsuit for defamation, harassment, and tortious interference. They're claiming you knowingly filed a false ethics complaint with malicious intent. They're demanding you retract the complaint and issue a public apology. If you don't comply within 10 days, they'll file in court. Can they win? No. But they can make your life hell for 6 months while the case gets dismissed. Depositions, discovery, legal fees. They're trying to bury you in process. Make it so expensive and time-consuming that you give up. What if I don't give up? Then you fight. We file a motion to dismiss. We argue that the ethics complaint was based on documented evidence and protected activity. We win eventually, but it costs you time and money, and Derek knows that. He's betting you'll fold rather than fight. What do you recommend? Honestly, I recommend you ignore the letter. Don't respond. Let them file if they want to. The moment they do, we'll counterclaim for harassment and abuse of process. We'll subpoena the emails you sent to his company. We'll put Derek's affair and coordinated divorce on the record. We'll make him regret filing." "You think he'll actually file?" "I think he's bluffing, but if he's not, we'll be ready." I hung up, sat at my kitchen table with my head in my hands. Derek was threatening to sue. Claire was telling people I was stalking them. My clients were getting fake reference calls. Lauren had been driven into hiding, and all because I'd sent a timeline to a wedding. All because I'd documented the truth and made sure people saw it. Julie was right. This was never going to end. Not as long as Derek kept fighting, not as long as I refused to back down. But I wasn't backing down. Not after everything I'd lost, not after the $600,000, not after weeks of building evidence and fighting for accountability. I opened my laptop, pulled up the ethics complaint case number, checked the status, still under investigation, no findings yet, no updates. I closed the laptop and stared out at the Lisbon evening. Derek thought he could intimidate me, thought he could threaten lawsuits and fake reference calls and make me disappear. He was wrong. I wasn't disappearing. I was just getting started. A week passed with no updates, no new threats from Derek, no calls to my clients. Just silence. The kind of silence that felt more dangerous than the noise that had come before it. I kept working, kept my head down, took on new client projects, and tried to build some version of a normal life in Lisbon. But every morning, I woke up checking my email. Every evening, I went to bed wondering what Derek was planning next. On the 8th day, I got a message from an email address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Meridian Solutions Investigation Update." I opened it. It Mr. Cross, this message is to inform you that the investigation into case number 7734A has been completed. After reviewing submitted evidence and conducting interviews with relevant parties, Meridian Solutions has determined that employee conduct violated company ethics policies. Appropriate disciplinary action has been taken. Per company policy, we cannot disclose specifics of personnel decisions. Thank you for bringing this matter to our attention. I read the message 3 times. Appropriate disciplinary action has been taken. Derek had been disciplined, maybe suspended, maybe fired. The email didn't say, but it meant the investigation had found merit. The emails I'd submitted had been verified. The affair, the coordinated divorces, the manipulation, all of it had been documented and confirmed. I forwarded the email to my lawyer with a single line. Investigation complete. Derek was disciplined. He called me 10 minutes later. Nathan, this is good news. It means the ethics complaint was substantiated. Derek can't claim you filed a false report. He can't sue you for defamation. The company investigated and found violations. That validates everything you submitted. Do you think he was fired? Hard to say. Appropriate disciplinary action could mean anything from suspension to termination, but the fact that they took action at all means it was serious. What happens now? Now we wait. If Derek's attorneys are smart, they'll drop the lawsuit threat. There's no case. He can't claim defamation when his own employer confirmed the violations. If they file anyway, we destroy them in court. And if they don't file, then it's over. Derek goes away. You move on. This chapter closes. We hung up. I sat at my kitchen table staring at the email. Appropriate disciplinary action has been taken. I'd done it. I'd held Derek accountable. Not through revenge, not through public shaming, but through documentation, through legitimate channels, through the same ethics policies he was supposed to enforce. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to relief, but it didn't last long. That evening, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. You just destroyed my career. I hope you're proud, but this isn't over, not even close. I stared at the message. The number had a local area code from the city I'd left. It had to be Derek, or someone acting on his behalf. I didn't respond, just screenshot the message and forwarded it to my lawyer. He replied, "Do not engage. Save everything. If he contacts you again, we file for a restraining order." I set my phone down, tried to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. Derek wasn't done, even after being disciplined by his employer, even after the investigation confirmed the violations. He was still coming after me. 2 days later, I got a call from Julie. Nathan, you need to hear this. Claire called me yesterday. She's devastated. Derek lost his job. Meridian Solutions fired him. She says it's your fault, that you filed a malicious complaint to destroy him. She's telling everyone you're obsessed, that you can't let go, that you're ruining their lives from another country. I closed my eyes. He didn't lose his job because of me. He lost it because he violated company ethics policies. The investigation confirmed it. She doesn't care about the investigation. She cares that Derek's unemployed and humiliated and their life is falling apart. Nathan, she's talking about filing a restraining order against you. She says you're stalking them. I'm 3,000 miles away. I haven't contacted her. I haven't contacted Derek. How is that stalking? She says you're using third parties to harass them, that you manipulated Derek's ex-wife into giving you private emails, that you're orchestrating a campaign to destroy their relationship. I documented the truth. That's not harassment. That's accountability. Nathan, I'm on your side, but you need to understand how this looks. You sent a timeline to their wedding. You filed a complaint that got Derek fired. You're pulling strings from Portugal while their lives implode. People are starting to think you're the villain here. What about what they did? What about the affair? The coordinated divorces? The lies? People don't care about that anymore. That was weeks ago. Now the story is that you won't let go, that you're obsessed, that you're punishing them because you can't move on. I didn't respond, just sat there holding the phone. Julie sighed. I'm telling you this because I care about you, but Nathan, you need to stop. You need to let this go. You've made your point. You've exposed them. You've held them accountable. Now walk away before this destroys you too. I didn't start this. No, but you're the one who keeps escalating, and eventually that's going to come back on you. We hung up. I sat in the dark apartment staring at the wall. She was right. The narrative was shifting. I'd gone from the wronged husband to the obsessed ex, from the victim to the villain, and no amount of documentation or evidence was going to change that, because people didn't care about timelines. They cared about stories. And the story now was that I couldn't let go. The next morning, I got an email from Claire's lawyer, not the same firm that had handled the settlement, a different one. Mr. Cross, we represent Claire Hartley in a matter concerning ongoing harassment and stalking. It has come to our attention that you have engaged in a pattern of behavior designed to interfere with Ms. Hartley's personal and professional life. This includes, but is not limited to, sending defamatory materials to her wedding guests, filing false complaints with Mr. Derek Holloway's employer, and using third parties to obtain private communications. We demand that you immediately cease all contact, direct or indirect, with Ms. Hartley and Mr. Holloway. Failure to comply will result in legal action, including a restraining order and civil claims for damages. You have 5 business days to respond. I read the email twice. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer. He called me an hour later. Nathan, this is a scare tactic. They're trying to intimidate you into silence, but there's no legal basis for their claims. You didn't file false complaints. The investigation confirmed the violations. You didn't stalk anyone. You're in Portugal. And obtaining emails from Derek's ex-wife isn't illegal. She gave them to you willingly. So what do I do? We respond. We lay out the facts. We explain that every action you took was based on documented evidence and legitimate concerns. We make it clear that if they file for a restraining order, we'll fight it and countersue for abuse of process. Will that stop them? Probably, but Nathan, you need to prepare for the possibility that they file anyway. If they do, you'll have to appear in court, possibly in person, possibly back in the States. I'm not going back. I moved here to get away from all this. I know. But if they file a restraining order and you don't show up to contest it, they win by default, and then you're legally barred from any contact with them, ever, even indirectly. I sat down, stared at the floor. So they can just force me back into court? Make me defend myself even though I haven't done anything wrong? Welcome to the legal system. The process is the punishment. They know they can't win, but they can make you suffer through the process, and they're betting you'll give up rather than fight. I hung up, walked to the window, stared out at Lisbon without seeing it. This was never going to end. Not as long as Claire and Derek kept fighting, not as long as they had lawyers willing to file baseless claims, not as long as they could weaponize the legal system to punish me for telling the truth. That night, I got a message from Angela. Nathan, Lauren asked me to tell you something. Derek's been posting on social media, nothing direct, just vague posts about betrayal and revenge and people who can't move on. But everyone knows he's talking about you, and people are starting to take his side. They're saying you're obsessed, that you ruined his life over a divorce. Lauren wanted you to know so you can protect yourself. I opened Derek's Facebook profile. It was public. I scrolled through his recent posts. Sometimes the people who claim to want justice are really just looking for revenge. You can survive anything if you have the right people beside you. Betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from people who pretend to care about the truth. Every post had dozens of comments, friends offering support, telling him to stay strong, saying he deserved better. Not one of them knew the full story, not one of them had seen the emails, the timeline, the evidence. They just saw a man who'd lost his job and his wedding, and they assumed he was the victim. I closed the browser, sat in the dark. Julie was right. The narrative had shifted, and no amount of evidence was going to shift it back. The next morning, my lawyer sent me a draft response to Claire's legal threat. It was professional, factual, laid out everything I'd done and why, explained that the ethics complaint was substantiated, that the timeline was accurate, that I'd acted in good faith throughout. Send this, he wrote. Let them know we're not backing down. And then, Nathan, I need you to do something for me. What? Stop. Don't file any more complaints. Don't send any more emails. Don't reach out to anyone connected to Claire or Derek. Just stop. Let the legal process play out. If they file for a restraining order, we'll fight it. But don't give them any more ammunition. I stared at the draft response. Then I replied, Send it. He did. I got the confirmation an hour later. The response had been delivered to Claire's lawyer. Now we waited. 3 days passed. No response from Claire's lawyer. No new threats. No updates. I started to think maybe it was over. Maybe the response had scared them off. Maybe they'd realized they couldn't win and decided to drop it. But on the 4th day, I got a notification on my phone. A message from a court filing system I'd registered with months ago during the divorce. New filing in case, Hartley v. Cross. I opened the notification, scanned the document. Claire had filed for a restraining order, emergency petition, claiming I was stalking her, harassing her, interfering with her life, using third parties to intimidate her and Derek. The hearing was scheduled for 10 days out. I was required to appear, in person. In the courthouse I'd walked out of 3 months ago when the divorce finalized. If I didn't show, the restraining order would be granted by default. I sat there staring at the document. Then I called my lawyer. They filed. I see it. I just got the notification. What do I do? You come back, you show up, you fight it. If you don't, they win, and you spend the next year legally barred from any contact with them, which means no more complaints, no more documentation, no more holding them accountable. I'm not flying back for a baseless restraining order. Then you lose by default, and Claire and Derek get to tell everyone you were so guilty you didn't even bother to defend yourself. I close my eyes. This is insane. I haven't stalked anyone. I haven't harassed anyone. I documented the truth and reported ethics violations. That's not illegal. I know, and will prove that in court. But you have to show up, Nathan. There's no way around it. I hung up, sat at my kitchen table with my head in my hands. Claire and Derek had won. Not because they'd proven I did anything wrong, but because they'd forced me back into the system, back into their world, back into the fight I'd tried to escape by moving to Portugal. I opened my laptop, searched for flights, found one leaving in 5 days, one-way ticket back to the city I'd left behind. I booked it. Then I sat in the dark apartment and stared at the confirmation email. I was going back, and this time I was going to end it. The flight back felt like traveling in reverse. 11 hours over the Atlantic, trading the golden light of Lisbon for the gray sprawl of the city I'd tried to leave behind. I landed on a Thursday morning, rented a car at the airport, and drove to a hotel near the courthouse. I didn't tell anyone I was coming, not Julie, not my mother, not even my lawyer until the night before. I wanted to control the narrative this time, wanted to show up on my terms, not theirs. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for Monday at 10 in the morning. That gave me 4 days to prepare. 4 days to make sure I had every piece of evidence organized and ready. 4 days to figure out how to end this once and for all. I spent Thursday afternoon in my hotel room reviewing documents. The timeline I'd sent to the wedding, the ethics complaint, the emails from Derek's ex-wife, the settlement agreement, the threatening voicemail Derek had left, the fake reference calls to my clients. Every piece of evidence I had showing that I hadn't stalked anyone, that I'd acted in good faith, that Claire and Derek were the ones escalating. Friday morning, I met with my lawyer at his office. "You look tired," he said. "I am tired. I'm tired of fighting, tired of being accused of things I didn't do, tired of having to defend myself for telling the truth." He nodded. "I understand, but we're going to end this on Monday. Claire's petition is weak. She's claiming you're stalking her, but you're in Portugal. She's claiming you're harassing her, but you haven't contacted her. The only thing she can prove is that you sent a timeline to her wedding and filed an ethics complaint. Neither of those is illegal." "What about the emails from Derek's ex-wife? Claire's lawyer is saying I manipulated her into giving them to me." "Lauren gave you the emails voluntarily. She's an adult. She made a choice. That's not manipulation. And even if it were, it's not relevant to a restraining order. Claire has to prove you're a threat to her safety. She can't." "What if she lies? What if she gets up there and says I've been calling her, following her?" "Then we cross-examine her. We ask for phone records, security footage, proof. She won't have any because it didn't happen, and when the judge sees that, the petition gets denied." "And then it's over?" "Then it's over. You go back to Portugal. They go back to their lives, and everyone moves on." I wanted to believe him, but I'd thought it was over before. After the settlement, after the ethics investigation. And here I was, sitting in a lawyer's office, preparing to defend myself in court again. Friday afternoon, I drove past my old apartment, the building where Claire and I had lived together, where I'd found the wedding invitation, where I'd built the timeline that started all of this. There was a for sale sign in front, the real estate agent's number listed beneath it. The sale had closed while I was in Lisbon. Some stranger owned it now, lived in the space where my marriage had fallen apart. I kept driving, through neighborhoods I used to know, past the coffee shop where Claire and I used to meet on Saturday mornings, past the park where we'd walked on summer evenings. All of it familiar and foreign at the same time. I ended up at my father's grave. I hadn't been there since the funeral, since the trip that Claire had used as cover to get engaged to Derek. I stood at the headstone and stared at the dates carved into the granite. Born, died, 58 years reduced to 2 numbers and a dash. "I'm sorry, Dad," I said quietly. "I'm sorry she used your funeral that way. I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening. I'm sorry I let her get away with it for so long." The grave didn't answer, just sat there silent and still while the wind moved through the cemetery trees. I stayed for 20 minutes. Then I got back in the car and drove to the hotel. Saturday, I got a text from Julie. I heard you're back in town. Are you okay? I typed back, I'm here for the restraining order hearing. I'll be gone by Tuesday. Nathan, can we talk? In person? I don't think that's a good idea. Claire's lawyers are looking for any evidence of me contacting people connected to her. I don't want to drag you into this. I'm already in this. I gave Simone your timeline. I've been fielding questions from mutual friends for weeks. Let me buy you coffee. 1 hour, please. I stared at the message. Then I typed, okay, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., the place near the courthouse. I'll be there. Sunday morning, I walked to the coffee shop. Julie was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of her. She looked older than I remembered, tired, like the past few months had aged her too. Hey, she said as I sat down. Hey. She slid one of the cups toward me. Black. No sugar. Still your order? Yeah, thanks. We sat in silence for a minute. Then Julie said, You didn't have to come back. You could have ignored the hearing. Let them get the restraining order by default. It wouldn't have mattered. You're in Portugal. It would have mattered. They would have told everyone I was too guilty to show up, that I ran because I knew I'd lose. And now you're here to prove them wrong. I'm here to end this, once and for all. Julie looked down at her coffee. Nathan, do you ever regret it? Sending that timeline? Filing the complaint? All of it? I thought about that. No, I don't regret telling the truth. I regret that it had to come to this, but I don't regret holding them accountable. Even though it's cost you $600,000, even though you're sitting in a courthouse hotel defending yourself against stalking charges. Even then. She shook her head. I don't know if that makes you principled or just stubborn. Maybe both. We talked for another 30 minutes. She told me about mutual friends, about people taking sides, about Claire's narrative spreading through their social circle like a virus, the bitter ex-husband, the obsessed stalker, the man who couldn't let go. Most people believe her, Julie said. They don't know about the emails, the coordinated divorces, the timeline. They just know Claire's version. And in her version, you're the villain. I know. I've seen Derek's Facebook posts. He's playing the victim perfectly. The man who lost everything because of a vindictive ex. People eat that up. What about you? What do you believe? Julie looked at me for a long time. I believe you told the truth. I believe Claire and Derek lied and manipulated and planned everything. But Nathan, I also believe you've become obsessed, not with them, with being right, with proving that you're the victim and they're the villains. And that obsession is eating you alive. I didn't respond, just stared at my coffee. I'm not saying you should apologize, Julie continued. I'm not saying you should let them get away with what they did, but at some point you have to decide what's more important, being right or being free. We finished our coffee in silence. Then Julie stood up. Good luck tomorrow. I hope you get what you're looking for. She left. I sat there alone in the coffee shop watching people come and go. Lives intersecting for a moment and then moving on. Everyone carrying their own stories, their own versions of the truth. Sunday evening, I got a message from Angela. Nathan, Lauren wanted me to tell you something. Derek contacted her again yesterday. He knows she gave you the emails. He threatened to sue her for breach of privacy. She's terrified. She wanted you to know in case it comes up at the hearing tomorrow. Derek might try to claim you illegally obtained the emails. I forwarded the message to my lawyer. He called me back immediately. If Derek tries to claim the emails were obtained illegally, we'll subpoena Lauren as a witness. She gave them to you voluntarily. That's not illegal. But Nathan, this means Derek is getting desperate. He's looking for any angle to discredit you. Be ready for him to lie on the stand. You think he'll be at the hearing? Probably. Claire's lawyer will call him as a witness. He'll testify that you've been harassing him, calling his employer, ruining his career. We'll cross-examine him and tear his story apart. But it's going to be ugly. I'm ready. Are you? Because once you walk into that courtroom, there's no walking away. This is it. The final confrontation. Whatever happens in there, it's going to define how this story ends. I hung up, sat on the hotel bed staring at the ceiling. The final confrontation. That's what this had become. Not a marriage ending, not a divorce settling, but a war. A fight over who got to control the narrative, who got to be the victim, who got to walk away clean, and I was about to walk into a courtroom and face the 2 people who'd spent the last year trying to destroy me. Monday morning, I put on a suit, drove to the courthouse, parked in the same lot where I'd parked the day I signed the divorce papers, walked through the same hallways, past the same rooms where my marriage had officially ended. My lawyer met me outside the courtroom. You ready? As ready as I'll ever be. Remember, stay calm. Answer questions directly. Don't let them bait you into losing your temper. The judge needs to see you as rational, credible, not the obsessed stalker Claire's lawyer is going to paint you as. I know. We walked into the courtroom. It was smaller than I expected. Just a few rows of benches, a judge's bench at the front, and 2 tables for the parties. Claire was already there, sitting at the table on the left with her lawyer. She looked thinner than I remembered. Her hair pulled back, dark circles under her eyes. She didn't look at me when I walked in, just kept her eyes on the table. Derek was sitting in the front row behind her, arms crossed, jaw tight. He stared at me as I sat down, a cold, hard stare that said everything without words. The judge entered, a woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She sat down, reviewed the file, and looked up. This is a hearing on an emergency petition for a restraining order. Ms. Hartley, you're the petitioner. Mr. Cross, you're the respondent. Ms. Hartley, your lawyer may proceed. Claire's lawyer stood, a man in his 40s with slicked back hair and an expensive suit. He walked to the podium. Your Honor, my client is here today because she's being stalked and harassed by her ex-husband. Mr. Cross has engaged in a campaign of intimidation that began months ago and has escalated to the point where Ms. Hartley fears for her safety. He sent defamatory materials to her wedding. He filed false complaints with her fiancé's employer that resulted in his termination. He obtained private emails through manipulation and used them to destroy their lives. And he's done all of this from another country, making himself untouchable while he orchestrates attacks through third parties. The judge looked at me. Mr. Cross, how do you respond to these allegations? My lawyer stood. Your Honor, Mr. Cross has not stalked anyone. He has not contacted Ms. Hartley in months, and he has not threatened her. He has not followed her. Every action he took was based on documented evidence and legitimate concerns. He sent a timeline to a wedding because the timeline was accurate. He filed an ethics complaint because the complaint was substantiated by his employer's own investigation. He is not a stalker. He is a man who told the truth, and now he's being punished for it. The judge nodded. We'll hear testimony. Ms. Hartley, you may take the stand. Claire stood, walked to the witness stand, placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and I sat there watching her, knowing that whatever she said next was going to determine how this ended. The final confrontation had begun, and there was no turning back now. Claire sat in the witness chair, hands folded in her lap. Her lawyer approached with a legal pad in hand. Ms. Hartley, can you describe your relationship with the respondent? Nathan Cross? We were married for 6 years. We divorced 3 months ago. And since the divorce, has Mr. Cross contacted you? Not directly, but he's been orchestrating a campaign against me and my fiancée through other people. Can you explain what you mean by that? Claire took a breath. 3 months ago, Nathan sent a document to my wedding, a timeline claiming Derek and I had been having an affair during my marriage. He gave it to a wedding guest who delivered it to my maid of honor. It caused a scene. The wedding was canceled. I was humiliated in front of 120 people. Did Mr. Cross attend the wedding? No, he was in Portugal, but he orchestrated the whole thing remotely. What happened after the wedding? Derek lost his job. Nathan filed a complaint with Derek's employer claiming he violated ethics policies. The company investigated and fired him. We lost his income. Our lives fell apart. Do you believe Mr. Cross filed that complaint to harm you? Yes. He knew Derek supported me financially. He knew losing that income would hurt both of us. He did it out of spite. My lawyer stood. Objection. Speculation about Mr. Cross's motives. The judge nodded. Sustained. Ms. Hartley, stick to facts, not assumptions. Claire's lawyer continued. Ms. Hartley, do you fear for your safety? Yes. Nathan has shown he's willing to manipulate people, to destroy careers, to humiliate us publicly. I don't know what he'll do next. Has he made any threats? Not directly, but his actions speak for themselves. My lawyer stood again. Your Honor, I'd like to cross-examine. The judge gestured. Proceed. My lawyer walked to the podium. Ms. Hartley, you stated that Mr. Cross sent a timeline to your wedding. Was the information in that timeline accurate? Claire hesitated. Some of it was taken out of context. But was it accurate? Were the dates correct? The events described? Mostly. But yes or no, Ms. Hartley? Yes? And you stated that Mr. Cross filed a complaint with Derek Holloway's employer. Did that complaint result in an investigation? Yes. And did the investigation find that Mr. Holloway violated company ethics policies? Claire's jaw tightened. Yes. So Mr. Cross didn't file a false complaint. He filed an accurate complaint that was substantiated by the company's own investigation, correct? He manipulated the situation. He made it look worse than it was. How did he manipulate it? He got Derek's ex-wife to give him private emails. Did Derek's ex-wife give those emails voluntarily? I don't know. You don't know, but you're accusing Mr. Cross of manipulation without any evidence that he coerced her. Is that correct? He must have. Must have. But you don't know. You're assuming. My lawyer paused. Ms. Hartley, when did your relationship with Derek Holloway begin? Claire shifted in her chair. After my marriage ended. After your marriage ended or after you filed for divorce? After I filed. So during the 60-day waiting period, while you were still legally married to Mr. Cross. We were separated, but legally married, and you were seeing Derek Holloway during that time, correct? Yes. And before you filed for divorce, did you introduce Derek to Mr. Cross's family? She looked down. Yes, at Thanksgiving, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, while you were still married, you brought Derek Holloway to your husband's family Thanksgiving and introduced him as a colleague. Is that correct? Yes. And did you and Derek Holloway coordinate the timing of your divorces so you could both be legally free at the same time? Claire's lawyer stood. Objection. Relevance. My lawyer turned to the judge. Your Honor, this goes to Ms. Hartley's credibility. She's claiming Mr. Cross is stalking her, but the evidence shows she and Mr. Holloway engaged in calculated deception. If she's willing to lie about that, the court should question her claims about stalking. The judge nodded. I'll allow it. Oh, Ms. Hartley, answer the question. Claire looked at her lawyer, then back at my lawyer. Derek and I discussed timing, yes? You discussed timing. Did you book your wedding venue before your divorce was finalized? Yes. 2 weeks before it was finalized, correct? Yes. So you were planning your wedding to Derek Holloway while you were still legally married to Nathan Cross? We knew the divorce was going through. We were just preparing. Preparing by booking a venue, sending invitations, setting a date, all while still married. My lawyer paused. Ms. Hartley, did Derek Holloway propose to you while Mr. Cross was out of town attending his father's funeral? The courtroom went silent. Claire stared at my lawyer. That's not relevant. Answer the question, Ms. Hartley. She looked at the judge. Do I have to answer that? The judge looked at her over her glasses. Yes. Claire's voice was barely audible. Yes. Yes, Derek proposed while Nathan was at his father's funeral. Yes. My lawyer let that hang in the air for a moment. Then he said, Ms. Hartley, has Mr. Cross contacted you directly since you filed for divorce? No. Has he called you? No. Texted you? No. Emailed you? No. Shown up at your home or workplace? No. Threatened you in any way? Not directly. Not directly. Has he threatened you at all? His actions are threatening. That's not what I asked. Has Nathan Cross, in any communication, threatened you with harm? No. Has he followed you? No. Watched your home? No. Contacted your friends or family to ask about you? No. My lawyer looked at the judge. Your Honor, Ms. Hartley has admitted that Mr. Cross has not contacted her, threatened her, followed her, or engaged in any behavior that meets the legal definition of stalking. She's upset that he documented her affair and reported ethics violations. But being upset is not grounds for a restraining order. The judge looked at Claire's lawyer. Do you have any evidence of actual stalking behavior? Claire's lawyer stood. Your Honor, I'd like to call Derek Holloway to the stand. Derek stood from the front row, walked to the witness stand, placed his hand on the Bible. His jaw was tight. His eyes locked on me. Claire's lawyer approached. Mr. Holloway, can you describe your interactions with Nathan Cross? He's been harassing me for months. He filed a false complaint with my employer that got me fired. He's been contacting my ex-wife to dig up information. He's destroyed my career and my reputation. Do you fear Mr. Cross? Yes. He's shown he's willing to go to any lengths to hurt me. I don't know what he'll do next. Thank you. No further questions. My lawyer stood, walked to the podium, looked at Derek for a long moment. Mr. Holloway, you stated that Mr. Cross filed a false complaint with your employer. Did your employer investigate that complaint? Yes. And what were the findings? Derek hesitated. They said I violated company policy. They said you violated company policy, so the complaint wasn't false, it was accurate, correct? They took things out of context. Did they fire you? Yes. Why? Because of Nathan's complaint? Because of the complaint or because you actually violated ethics policies? Derek's face reddened. The complaint made it look worse than it was. Mr. Holloway, were you married when your relationship with Claire Hartley began? Objection, Claire's lawyer said. Relevance. My lawyer turned to the judge. Your Honor, Mr. Holloway is claiming Mr. Cross is harassing him, but the evidence shows Mr. Holloway engaged in conduct that violated his employer's ethics code. His termination was the result of his own actions, not Mr. Cross's harassment. The judge nodded. I'll allow it. Mr. Holloway, answer the question. Derek stared at me. Yes, I was married. How long had you been married? 4 years. And when did you file for divorce? 8 months ago. When was your divorce finalized? 3 weeks before my wedding to Claire. 3 weeks. So you were married to another woman for the majority of your relationship with Claire Hartley, correct? We were separated. When did you separate from your wife? 8 months ago, when I filed. So you were living with your wife, legally married, while you were seeing Claire Hartley. We were having problems. That's not what I asked. Were you legally married and living with your wife while seeing Claire? Yes. Did you coordinate the timing of your divorce with Claire so you could both be free at the same time? Derek's lawyer stood. Objection. Asked and answered. My lawyer looked at the judge. Ms. Hartley answered. Mr. Holloway has not. The judge gestured. Answer the question, Mr. Holloway. Yes, we coordinated. Did you propose to Claire while Nathan Cross was attending his father's funeral? Derek's face went pale. He looked at Claire, then back at my lawyer. Yes. Did you book a wedding venue before your divorce was finalized? Yes. Did you send wedding invitations before your divorce was finalized? Yes. My lawyer paused. Mr. Holloway, did you leave Nathan Cross a threatening voicemail? Derek blinked. I don't remember. My lawyer turned to me. I handed him my phone. He approached the bench. Your Honor, I have a voicemail from Mr. Holloway threatening to sue Mr. Cross. May I play it? The judge nodded. Proceed. My lawyer pressed play. Derek's voice filled the courtroom. Nathan, I know you're behind this. I don't know how you got those emails, but I know it was you. You sent that timeline to my wedding, you sabotaged the happiest day of my life, and now you're trying to destroy my career. But you made a mistake. You filed a false report with my employer. That's defamation. That's tortious interference, and I'm going to sue you for everything you have. The voicemail ended. The courtroom was silent. My lawyer looked at Derek. Does that refresh your memory? Derek said nothing. Mr. Holloway, did you show up at your ex-wife's apartment and demand to know if she gave Mr. Cross emails? I wanted answers. Did she call the police because you were pounding on her door? Derek's jaw clenched. She overreacted. She overreacted by calling the police because you were at her door demanding information. I wasn't threatening her. But she felt threatened enough to call the police, correct? I don't know what she felt. My lawyer looked at the judge. Your Honor, the evidence is clear. Mr. Cross has not stalked Ms. Hartley or Mr. Holloway. He documented an affair. He reported verified ethics violations. And in response, Mr. Holloway left threatening voicemails, showed up at his ex-wife's home, and coordinated with Ms. Hartley to file this petition as retaliation. This is an abuse of the restraining order process. The judge looked at Claire and Derek, then at me. I've heard enough. Ms. Hartley, Mr. Holloway, step down. They returned to their seats. The judge reviewed her notes. This court finds that Mr. Cross has not engaged in stalking behavior. He has not contacted Ms. Hartley. He has not threatened her. The actions he took, sending a timeline, filing a complaint, were based on documented evidence. Ms. Hartley's petition for a restraining order is denied. Claire's face went white. Derek stared straight ahead. The judge continued. Furthermore, this court finds that this petition was filed in bad faith as retaliation for Mr. Cross's legitimate actions. Ms. Hartley and Mr. Holloway, you are ordered to pay Mr. Cross's legal fees associated with this hearing. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell. I sat there, staring at the bench. The judge stood and left. My lawyer turned to me. It's over. I nodded, stood, walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Outside, the sunlight was harsh. I stood on the courthouse steps and breathed. Julie was waiting at the bottom. I heard, you won? Yeah. How do you feel? I thought about it. Empty. She nodded. That's what revenge feels like. It wasn't revenge. It was the truth. Sometimes those are the same thing. I walked to my car, drove to the airport, boarded a flight back to Lisbon. And as the plane lifted off, I looked down at the city disappearing beneath the clouds. It was over. Finally, completely,